Council to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Jeffrey?
Here.
Brubaker?
Here.
Kimmons?
Here.
Kaiser?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Just as a reminder, if any of you are going to address council this evening, make sure that you get a green card in the back to fill that out. And when it's time for you to address council, you need to present that to the clerk. Moving on to the agenda this evening. Is there any corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So second.
Been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes from the last meeting are in everyone's packets. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the last city council meeting? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to communication requests and informational items. Number 2, a request from Moberly Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, Mayor, we received a request from the Chamber of Commerce for the annual Gus Macker and Junk Junction event on September 9th and 10th. They did submit a modified plan, and we're asking that this request be accepted.
All right, thank you. Questions from council?
I'd just like to say one thing.
Mr. Kaiser.
I understand that the fire department, the police department were very involved in coming up with a new plan. And I want to say thank you for both for looking at everything and trying to accommodate all the concerns everybody had. That's all I'd like to say.
All right. Anyone else? Anything you would like to say, Ms. Schmidt? No speeches, please.
Green. Tom.
Like I did it. Magic. I would just like to say, if you look at the revised events footprint that we've submitted, we have relocated Gus Macker over to Clark Street to alleviate some of the concerns that we've received. But if everyone would please note that Williams and 5th Streets intersections are still controlled entry and exit points. We will locate vendors in the parking spaces on those cross streets, but we will keep the road barricades pulled back from Rollins and Coates so that it will give the cars enough room to turn around, and they will be able to access our parking lots and alleyways, but it will not completely cut off those streets and access to alleys and parking spaces. So the event will fit. We don't know the extent of what parking lots will need in the city hall parking lot area or municipal conference area parks and recreation parking lots yet. We'll have to wait for Gus Macker to be on site to confirm the condition of the asphalts and concrete in those areas and to lay out the courts themselves because of the widths that are required. They're somewhere in the 36 feet wide by 96 feet long for 2. So that's it.
All right, questions? Anyone? All right, thank you. So you've heard from the changes. Is there any further questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second. Been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to number 3, an ordinance.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement for tourism promotion services. It has to be read for passage.
All right, you heard the motion for the reading of the ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? First reading.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement for tourism promotion services with the Moberly Chamber of Commerce.
All right, you've heard the first reading. Any further discussion? Hearing none, second reading.
An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute a cooperative agreement for tourism promotion services with the Moberly Chamber of Commerce.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Brubaker,
Yes.
Kimmons,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries and the ordinance is passed. Moving on to number 4, resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing the Moberly Fire Department to submit a grant application with the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program. Ask for this to be read for consideration.
All right. You've heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing the Moberly Fire Department to submit a grant application with the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program.
All right. You've heard reading of the resolution. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, this is one that we added, so if there's any questions of Chief.
Okay. I'm glad you're here to answer them. I don't think there's any further questions from council. Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, number 5, a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute financial assistance agreement with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for a glass recycling bunker through the Mark Twain Solid Waste Management District. I ask it to be read once for consideration and passage.
All right, you've heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a financial assistance agreement with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources for a glass recycling bunker through the Mark Twain Solid Waste Management District.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance or resolution is passed. Moving to number 6, a resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution of the City of Moberly, Missouri, accepting a Governor's Transportation Cost Share Program award for the Moberly Industrial Park Street Extension and authorizing the city manager to execute an award agreement. I ask it to be read once for consideration of passage.
All right, you've heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution of the City of Moberly, Missouri, accepting a Governor's Transportation Cost Share Program award for Moberly Industrial Park Street Extension and authorizing the city manager to execute an award agreement.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Can I have that again? That's a second? Okay. You're getting what I have. There's been a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Moving to number 7, resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution of the City of Moberly, Missouri, authorizing an application to the Missouri Department of Economic Development. Has to be read for consideration.
All right. There's a motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution of the City of Moberly, Missouri, authorizing an application to the Missouri Department of Economic Development for an industrial site grant.
All right. For the reading of the resolution, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Moving on to number 8, resolution. Who has number 8?
Be me.
Please read it.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution engaging the services of Gilmore and Bell PC as bond counsel to the city in connection with the future issuance of bonds, notes, or other obligations, and special counsel to the city in connection with the consideration of economic development incentives. Ask where to be read for consideration.
All right. There's a motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution engaging the services of Gilmore and Bell PC as bond counsel to the city in connection with the future issuance of bonds, notes, or other obligations, and special counsel to the city in connection with the consideration of economic development incentives.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Mr. Crane, do we have someone here from Gilmore Bell that's going to speak now, or is it later?
They'll do it under the project that we got tonight.
Okay, all right, very well. Questions, anyone? Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Second.
It's motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Number 9, a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution recording the destruction of certain local government records, and I ask that it be read once for consideration of passage.
All right, you've heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution recording the destruction of certain local government records.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Number 10, a resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I have a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Brickton Group, Inc. for hotel development consulting services. Asked to be read once for consideration of passage.
All right, heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Brickton Group, Inc. for hotel development consulting services.
All right, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Moving to number 11, a resolution.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I have a resolution authorizing closing of streets and parking lots and public consumption of alcohol for Junk Junction, asked to be read once for consideration.
All right, heard the motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution authorizing closing of streets and parking lots and public consumption of alcohol for Junk Junction and the Gus Macker basketball tournament.
All right, you've heard the first reading. I assume you'd like to speak to the resolution. Okay, please state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Jeffries. I own Vintage 424 in downtown Moberly, and I would just like to take this opportunity on behalf of myself and the other downtown business owners here tonight to thank council, the fire department, and police department for all their hard work for Junk Junction. It is one of the best sale days for us for the whole year, so I just wanted to let you know that and thank you for everything.
Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you very
Thank
much. Anyone else? All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Moving on to number 12.
Mr. Mayor, I
Resolution.
have a resolution appropriating money out of the treasury of the city of Moberly, Missouri in the amount of $643,195.43. Ask for it to be read for approval.
All right, there's a motion for the reading of the resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? First and only reading.
A resolution appropriating money out of the treasury of the city of Moberly, Missouri in the amount of $643,195.43.
I hereby certify that there is sufficient money standing to the credit of the city of Moberly, Missouri, unappropriated and the several funds covered by this resolution to meet the requirements of this resolution. Submitted, Gregory L. Hodge, City Treasurer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution is passed. Anything else to come in front of the council for the city council meeting?
Thank you. I don't know if I need the microphone. I'm here today.
Please let us know who you are, sir.
I am Art Latson.
Thank you.
I am the acting chair for the Vietnam Veterans Commemoration Dinner. It's a dinner that's going to be put on by some residents of Randolph County. There's no one specific group, just a group of individuals that thought it needed to be done. What we are asking for today is a proclamation on April 8th to be given to this function, and for our honorable mayor and the honorable council to be in attendance if possible. I am not a Vietnam veteran, but I do have many friends in our community, many church members who are, and it's been a lot of work put into this, and we hope to be able to pull this off. Again, if you have any questions concerning that, I hope that you had an opportunity to read the article in the Moberly Monitor Index. There's also going to be a reservation that's required by filling out a postcard. If you fill out that postcard so that we can get an accurate count of how many Vietnam veterans that are going to be in attendance. A lot of people have asked me, why is this important? Well, it's important, and I'm not going to go into a long dissertation about why, but for many of us that live in this community that's surrounded by Vietnam veterans, we don't always understand the struggles in which they have. For me personally, just in my own neighborhood out there in Twin Meadows, we've had some pass away and not really understanding what they really need or require. But one of the things that they did say, it would be nice to know that they could talk to someone who had faced the same thing that they talked to, and that to face the same thing that they've had. That's going to kind of end any questions so far for me. I would have, thank you again for your time.
Okay, well, I don't think it will be any problem to have a proclamation. And of course, Honorable Councilman Kimmons is a Vietnam veteran, so we'll make every effort to try to participate with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Anyone else? Okay. Anybody else with anything in front of the council? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn, followed by work session, followed by a closed session?
So second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded. Roll call, please.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
Brubaker,
Yes.
Kimmons,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Lucas.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. We're adjourned from the regular Moberly City Council meeting, and we will open the the work session and take up the work session agenda for this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 1, Jason Terry from Gilmore Bells here. He's going to give an introduction on that, and then the company's here as well to give a presentation.
Very well.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. Thank you, Brian. My name is Jason Terry. I'm here from Gilmore and Bell. Thank you for having me this evening. The first item on the work session is relates to the equipmentshare.com project, which it's my understanding you're at least aware of the project. At the February 21st meeting, the council will be asked to consider an ordinance which as you can tell does a number of things from the litany of paperwork you may have. The ordinance authorizes the city to issue bonds to facilitate tax abatement. These bonds aren't being issued to finance the project. They're simply to effectuate tax abatement for 12 years for Equipment Share. The first 8 years are at 100%, meaning there will be no payment in lieu of taxes, and the final 4 years would be at 50% of payment in lieu of taxes would be made at a rate of 50%. The notice has gone out to the impacted taxing entities. They've been invited to reach out to the city and attend the February 21st meeting if they have any comments. That is a statutory requirement. So there may be folks in attendance at the February 21st meeting, or they may be reaching out to Brian between now and then. The ordinance authorizes the transfer of the property from the company to the city, which is necessary for the tax abatement, and then the city will lease the property back over for 12 years. The ordinance also authorizes the signing of the multiple bond documents that you've been presented with, and that will be for you on the 21st. That is a very broad overview. Brian from the company is here to discuss the actual project and the company, but if there are any questions about structure or the bond documents, that's why I'm here.
Questions, anyone? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Mayor, members of council, my name is Brian Treese, appearing to you tonight on behalf of EquipmentShare.com. I do have a presentation that we can kind of walk through, but I wanted to come here and visit with you about this exciting project. I know some of you have seen EquipmentShare trucks in Moberly over the past few months, and I wanted to be able to kind of walk you through who EquipmentShare is, what we're doing, what are we doing in Moberly, and again, this is a very exciting project. EquipmentShare started about 6 years ago in Columbia, Missouri. We succeeded here. We just announced our desire to stay here in Missouri, and with this project, we want to deepen our roots in Missouri, and specifically in Moberly, Missouri, with this presence. A lot of you say, I know who you are, but what do you do? EquipmentShare is a nationwide equipment rental company, but literally we are building the internet of construction. We have outfitted all of our machines as well as other machines with technology. We call it a T3 platform that allows users to measure how many hours that machine is being run, where it's running, when is it due for an oil change, when is it due for maintenance, and it really gives people unprecedented control over their assets. EquipmentShare started in 2015 by 5 co-founders. In that short period of time, they have grown to over 4,000 employees. We're now in 160 locations in 35 states in just a few short years. As we continue to expand, Moberly, Missouri is going to be part of that growth as we continue to drive some of the demand for our equipment and our technology. And specifically what we're looking at is a three-part facility here that has to do with our telematics. It's going to help us grow our technology and manufacture the hardware that we're putting on equipment across the country. And as equipment reaches its end of its useful life, it's going to be brought here. It'll be refurbished, that engine rebuilt, maybe that body repainted, and we'll either put it back out for service or put it back in the marketplace. And as we all know, companies are dealing with supply chain problems, and for us, that's finding buckets and attachments and fingers and small tools that go on the front of backhoes and track hoes and skid steer loaders. We're going to return manufacturing right here in Central Missouri to Moberly. We kind of walk through the jobs that we anticipate with this project. On the telematics side, that's our technology, literally the wiring harness that goes in all of these assets. We anticipate hiring 14 new employees by 2027 in the areas of research development, literally assembling these wiring harnesses. If you see the trailers there, we're outfitting specialty vehicles and trailers with the wiring, with the modules, with the technology, the cameras that will be installed on assets across the country. And then, a lot of times we've developed technology that you can now start these assets from your iPhone. But to do that, we need to have a little 12-digit code that gets a user ID that gets placed on the ignition switch of all of these assets. We're going to make those right here in Moberly, Missouri, so that they can go out and be put on our assets across the country. And again, as those track hoes, skid steers, lifts reach the end of their useful life, we'll bring them here to Moberly. The engines will be rebuilt, the frames will be repainted, we'll put them back out to service or sell them. And then I think the most exciting part here is the high-tech manufacturing that we talked about. We are beginning to source large brake presses, robotic welders, plasma cutters, tube cutters to really take 1-inch thick steel, cut it in bucket forms, fold it, weld it, and put it back out for attachments on our assets for both backhoes and mini track hoes. I kind of want to walk through the jobs that we're anticipating here. And again, we want these jobs to be accessible to everybody based on skill and salary level. For the most part, we're talking about production associates on the 2 shifts on that high-tech manufacturing side, and again in that $41,000 to $45,000 range. Technicians, we used to call these mechanics, but look, today mechanics do more than just turn a wrench. These are high. If you take your car to the dealership and they plug in one of the computer modules and the car tells you what's wrong with itself, the same is true with modern diesel motors and skid steer loaders and the big lifts that we're working with here. So having someone who knows how to tear down a motor, put it back, refabricate, paint shop, those jobs as well on that refurbishment side. That telematics assembly, I mentioned 14 jobs. Those are right there in that range as well, as in addition to paint and prep. Of course, we have supervisor and manager jobs on the engineering side, mechanical engineers, supply chain managers, quality engineers, production managers, as well as shop supervisors, welding. I want to point out that our average annual wage for these jobs is about 104% of Randolph County's average annual wage here. So well above that average county wage. And again, all of these jobs have the same benefits that all equipment share employees have with respect to health benefits, both medical, dental, and vision, as well as a 401k with company match, paid holidays and vacation time, regular performance reviews, additional training. I met with Moberly Area Community College today about how to incorporate their customized training program to make sure that we can take employees that maybe have worked in manufacturing before, that have some skills, and look, we're going to put them behind a computer that is driving these robotic welding cells and these plasma cutters and do so in a safe way. We also want our employees to be healthy mentally, financially, physically, and so they'll have 24 access to wellness resources like counseling and financial planning. It's no secret that we acquired the Dura Automotive facility at 1855 Robertson. You all know that plant closed in 2020. 81 employees, I believe, were permanently furloughed with that, and that has been vacant since that closure. With your support, we are looking at a capital investment of over $46 million, both in the physical plant, but also the manufacturing and high-tech assets on the inside. If you went through that building before, has anyone been through there when it was Dura? It was kind of a dark, dirty, dusty place. I encourage you to walk through there sometime. I'd be happy to take you through. We have now retrofitted it with new LED lighting. We just completed a roof repair project there. Our utility bill that month was $19,000 because of all the heat that was evacuating that facility. Redoing the flooring, the paint, the concrete, the break room, office, bathroom was all in disrepair, new overhead doors and new overhead lighting to really make that a new attractive place to work, and that's welcoming for the types of employees that we hope to recruit and retain there. We're looking at around $44 million in equipment there from laser cutters, and you can see those are not inexpensive, $3 to $3.5 million a piece. Plasma cutters, nitrogen generators, CNC mills. Here you can see one of the welding cells. There was about 300,000 a piece, and we're looking at around 30 of them in different bays to accommodate some of that manufacturing facility, as well as the 2 bridge cranes to move, 1,000-pound product from slab to finish there. I'm happy to pause and answer any questions. I want to be sensitive to your time frame this evening, but did want to come and share news about this exciting project. I've also got Meg Judy with us here from Equipment Share as well, but we're excited to be part of your community, and we'll look forward to getting started and kind of working through some of this process over the next few months. And
all right, thank you very much. Questions from council?
I'd just like to say Moberly's a great place, and we thank you guys for your investment in our community. We've got a lot of great people here, and Equipment Share is obviously a big deal, and we're absolutely glad to have you guys.
Well, I'm grateful for that. Thank you. And let me brag on Brian Crane and specifically Randy Asbury. I was thrown into this project last year, and to get up to speed on this project and to move it this close to the finish line. And I want to comment on the former employees that may have worked at Dura. We want to make a concerted effort with the state of Missouri to try to reach out to those employees. We think they're going to make the best employees because they know that facility the best. And with what we've done to it, I think they're going to be excited to come back.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Brubaker.
Excuse me, I realize it'll take a while as far as the hiring process to get up to 150.
Yeah.
I won't hold you to this, but what time frame would you estimate when you'll get up to 100 or 150 employees?
Yeah, let me just kind of be a little incremental about this. We've still got some due diligence to do, some paperwork. I think right now we've got 16 employees there. We're going to add another 10 in the pipeline between now and April 1st. Around April 1st, once we've got kind of some of the supply chain issues with respect to this equipment in place, we want to make sure that we have that equipment in place and the employee in place 30 days before we put that equipment into use. So some of that has a little bit of a chicken and egg problem there, but around April, we want to make sure that we have an open house, a hiring fair, and that we begin to look between April and the end of this year, probably 38 to 50 of those jobs, maybe more. Once that, you can see, once that production line is where we get the 2 shifts, about 40 to 45 employees per shift is where we get the bulk of that. I would say by the end of the next 2 years, we probably reach that goal. But I want to be a little aspirational on that, just based on the investment in the equipment, and we find the people in this job market to get them here and retrained for that.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, moving on to number 2, discussion regarding purchase of a jet vac for public utilities.
Yes, Mayor, Dana's going to come through and do this one and the next couple.
All right.
Good evening, Councilman.
Good evening.
Purchase of a jet vac in the capital equipment plan. The jet vac was due for replacement. This is the replacement for the oldest one of the 2. This one was done through a similar program to a state bid. And it's a very narrow market. In other words, you can't go anywhere and just buy a jet vac. There's very few firms that make them. We believe that the price offered through this cooperative arrangement is very competitive, and it is very similar. I would love to say exactly like our newest one, but it's similar enough to where the learning curve is very short and very shallow.
All right. All right, questions about the purchase?
I have a question.
Mr. Brubaker.
The one we're replacing, it might be in there and I just missed it, but how old is the one that you're replacing?
It's around 5 years old.
Okay.
It might be older than that, but it is at the end of its serviceable life.
So
it'll go and rebuilt and be offered to someone else as part of the trade-in.
So these have about 5 years life expectancy.
Well, they can last longer, but your available time to use it in any given year when it's not undergoing repairs shrinks every year after that.
Okay.
And these units are very heavily used by staff.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe I read in there it was a 2010 model.
Yeah.
That I could be
was it? It could be.
just 13. Anyone else?
Then we've gotten full use of it.
Okay. Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, that'll move forward to the next council meeting. Thank you, sir. And we'll move on to number 3, discussion regarding the Moberly State Revolving Fund application.
There are 3 applications, one of which is the repeat of an old one, which was the Northwest Sewer Lift Station, which had already been submitted and approved under the SRF program. But due to delays in pursuing other projects, the engineering on it is just now beginning. And the state recommended to us that we go ahead and apply to make sure we extend the deadlines and are able to do that project. The other two are new, and they are the two respective ARPA water and wastewater projects that were not approved, just like many other water and wastewater projects in Missouri. And we just flipped the description of those onto the respective water and wastewater SRF projects. So there's 3 in total. One of them is a repeat, and 2 of them are new. And each one of those 2 new ones are the next respective projects under our plan.
Okay, so what's the total of the 3, and what's the time frame?
The total meaning the dollar amount
Yes,
of the
sir.
3. Though those calculations are currently being performed by the consulting engineer under light of the constantly changing construction cost increases. So I cannot give you that number right now.
Okay.
But they are substantial. The lift station is, and don't hold me to this, 2 or 3 million, and each one of the SRFs is going to be up to 10 million to complete the project. Now that is open to negotiation with state once we submit the application and go through the process.
Well, I guess the reason I asked the question is that we're obviously in a higher interest rate period now than we would have been if we'd have done them 2 years ago. So depending upon when those come to the market with the state revolving fund will dictate what kind of interest service we have to do on these projects as we pay them off.
You're absolutely correct on that, Mayor. And that's the part of the negotiation process at the end with DNR staff and evaluating all that, looking at that, and being able to shrink or expand the scope of the project accordingly.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anyone opposed to moving that forward? That'll move forward to the next meeting. So we will move on to number 4.
Should be the regional incentive grant.
Yes.
There's a group of houses on Orton Lane just outside the city limits on the south side, and their current system is failing. State DNR approached us and said we would be able to offer you a 100% regional incentive grant if you would like to connect that to your current city sewer system. So after staff discussion and evaluating that opportunity, it was determined to pursue that application and to evaluate and put together a project scope that sizes the project to be able to serve that entire drainage rather than just those 5 houses. In other words, it sets us up there for future growth in the area if it were ever to occur.
All right. Questions, anyone? So I assume that's going to be put in the sequence behind all these other projects.
It'll go, I don't even know how to describe that. It'll go along with, but it'll depend on the timetable for that project as to how it goes with those projects. So it may trail them a little, or it may be right there in the midst of them. But it's independent of it. None of them are reliant upon one another, so they can run concurrently without impacting one another.
Yeah, more parallel.
Well, I guess what I was thinking is that we've been hearing about, engineering backed up, and so obviously there's going to have to be engineering done for that, correct?
It's a lower priority, although we would love to be able to take advantage of a 100% grant anytime we can.
So besides the grant of the state paying for it, how does that affect us as far as rates and maintaining and what we collect in the future as far as responsibility?
It is going to increase our footage of lines in the ground and the ability for us to maintain, but that'll be brand new and it'll be very little. So we expect it to have very little impact. That'll be a small lift station and a force main, which have minimal maintenance if well maintained.
Anyone else? I hate to ask all the questions. So who controls the rate that those people pay since they're not city residents?
That's already determined by ordinance. And that if you're outside the city limits, you pay 3 times the sewer rate of your respective customers inside the city limits.
Okay. Very well. Anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? Thank you very much. That'll move forward to the next meeting. I'll move on to number 5. request from Lori Turk.
Yes, Mayor, we received this request for the annual Run for Your Life event. It's going to be on May 14th, and we're asking this be.
All right. Does anyone in council have any questions about the event?
No.
Does anyone oppose to moving that forward? All right. That will move forward to the next meeting. So we'll move on to number 6, a resolution approving equipment usage agreement between Burrell Health and the police department.
So several months ago, Burrell Health approached us and a program that they would supply us some type of devices, probably tablets or something like that, that would into our patrol cars, so that when we had contact with folks that were having some form of mental health crisis, we would have the means provided by Burrell to get that person in contact with the counselor through Burrell. And the hope for that was to be able to provide some very immediate and face-to-face mental health counseling or things like that on scene without them having to make appointments with Burrell, or worse yet, be taken into custody for and have to be taken to a non-committal mental health evaluation. So they approach us with that. I don't know exactly what the equipment is going to be, but it's going to be something down those lines. They supply it, we use it, they provide us all the charging. The only catch with us is if it gets stolen or damaged, or we damage it, and we're responsible for it. But it does an agreement, and it does require council approval for us to do that. We think it's a good idea. It's another layer where we can provide some services on scene without individual having to go someplace else, even if it's a little time commitment on our part.
All right. Questions, anyone?
It's very needed.
Anyone opposed to moving that forward? Hearing none, that'll move forward. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to number 7, review of the 2023 fireworks agreement.
As you can see in the packet, we have an agreement with J&M. They're the ones that have done it for about 30 or more years here in town. Very safe. They do most of the big shows in Missouri. $10 million insurance policy. So we're looking to continue that relationship. We're just ticking it up $2,000 just to keep up with costs and maintain a high caliber show. We're around the 4th or 5th largest in the state.
Okay, questions for Mr. Bach? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, so that'll move forward to the next meeting. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to number 8, an ordinance adopting Article 3 of the chapter of City Code providing for no smoking of marijuana in public place or meeting.
Mr. Mayor, this is in most respects the same as what was presented last meeting, except we've included as a public place where smoking is not allowed any public park, public street, avenue, alley, or sidewalk or street crossing. And with that, I think we've got most every public place covered that could be covered. That there are some minor other changes, but that's the biggest one.
So you're comfortable with it?
Yes. Yes.
Questions from council? Hearing none, is anyone opposed to moving that forward? Hearing no opposition, that will move forward to the next regular council meeting. Move on to number 9, a resolution accepting a quitclaim deed.
This is a property on Quinn Street that is condemned to be property delinquent, and the owner is a California and haven't really got a way to pursue that. They're willing to donate. In fact, they've already signed it over to us. I realize that's dumping that responsibility on the city of Moberly. However, take action with it, probably end up going down to a tax roll in 3 years from now and have to try to tear it down and end up with a collector's, where this gives us a OD that we could hand off, probably clean the property off and get it turned around for redevelopment.
All right. Your screen is blank, but there we go. All right. Questions from council?
I got a question.
Mr. Brubaker.
Tom, I noticed that the owners were 2 different last names. Are they both from California?
No, one of them had used the husband. I guess the man in the relationship had was there, and they owned rental houses in town here several for years, and so this is kind of like they moved out there completely, and so they're out of pocket for us, and so I think that's one of the last ones they have, last property they have.
Do they both live in California?
He's deceased.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? Hearing none, that'll move forward to the regular council meeting. Move on to number 10, appointment to the Historic Preservation Commission.
We had 3 applicants, so you see the names there. HPC had talked about that and ended towards the Melissa Wiggs and Moran, the applicant.
And then don't we have to reappoint Mr. Ballinger also?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so he's the third.
Yes.
All right, questions about any of the candidates? All right, anyone opposed to moving that forward? No opposition, that'll move forward to the next regular meeting with Mr. Ballinger, Ms. Moran, and Ms. Anderson as the candidates to be put on the board. So we'll move on to number 11, application for rezoning.
So I can run through that briefly, and if you have any further questions, I know the owner and the engineer are both in the audience to answer further questions. It went to planning and zoning recently, and so it's a unique circumstance. The acreage there and the tract you'll see over there is largely undeveloped. There's limited houses around it, and owner has met with most of the property owners around there, and we didn't have anyone at the meeting in opposition to it. And the circumstances to make it work was to go through a plan development. They're looking to have a horse stable, a nice decorative fence. They provided examples of the fence and also the building for the presentation, and are looking to start that pretty quickly if approved. And they have to do it as a commercial use. By doing the plan development, it really limits it to where they can only have like a maximum of 5 horses they suggested, and that's 1 horse per acre out there. So P&Z found it favorable.
All right, I know Councilman Kaiser and I are on planning and zoning, and it was pretty thoroughly vetted there and not opposed. Does anyone have any questions, comments? All right, hearing none, is there anyone opposed to moving that forward to the next regular meeting? All right, that will move forward. And we'll move on to number 12, an application for a plan development.
So this is the same process, our job site, and it's hard to split those up, but that was the zoning change, and this is the plan for the plan development, which is the layout for building, its color, its layout, design, the fencing, where it's going to be on the property as far as the paved driveway, where the parking is going to be. So that gives people, you can see from that diagram there, the exact layout, and that's integral to the other thing. Same thing occurred, no opposition. A lot of questions asked by P&Z, and they found it favorable.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone have questions? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? No opposition. That will move forward to the next regular meeting. And we'll move on to number 13, discussion regarding a Tannehill Waterline Project change order.
Yes, Council. So this is the same contract project as area line project Virgin College at the point that required the change. Intended to have this change next project, but instead expanded went ahead and said let's go next project.
All right. Questions, anyone? Thank you. Anyone opposed to moving that forward? That'll move forward to the next regular meeting. And we'll move on to number 14, on-call professional services agreement.
So Bartlett and West Engineering Service contract, we're at the end of their current 3-year agreement, and so staff is recommending extending that for another 3 years. Again, this is not an exclusive contract for them. We have multiple on-call engineers for different universities, so staff recommends moving them.
All right. Any have questions about this item? Hearing none, or is there anyone opposed to moving it forward? Hearing none, that will move forward to the next regular council meeting. And we'll move on to number 15.
As you can see, we early last fall, we had taken requested proposals on engineering for Kiwanis Park, received none. As noted in the previous item, the city's had a long-standing relationship with Bartlett West. Essentially, they and multiple other firms were buried at the time. Bartlett and West is now interested in taking on that project, and they have the attached proposal, which came in under what they had anticipated back in December when I was visiting them. So, and significantly under what they had estimated when the CDBG grant proposal was being worked on about a year ago for this project. So we think it's a good number. They've done some initial site plan work, so they already had their some initial work done on this particular project. They're familiar with it, as well as the ground up.
Questions, anyone? So this is just for the design, and would you be building it even if you don't get the grant that you're applying for, or not?
We would apply again if we're not awarded. We're awaiting on award. It's passed through the state level. When it passes through the state level, it's rarely not approved at the federal level. So right now, while the hold up on the application and award is not just for our city, is for all of the applicants. There has been no awards given. 50% were selected for archaeology review by the Osage tribe. Is waiting. We've had the archaeologists come on site, give their report. There's no substantial findings that would affect the project. Is waiting for the Osage tribe to review and green light it. Then it'll go to the National Park Service for their green light. So no one has a crystal ball, but the likelihood is we'll be awarded the funding.
I see. So if I understood, it was for a pavilion and then a restroom, right?
Pavilion, restroom, a sidewalk along the parking lot, and that parking lot and driveway in. So all the hardscape items.
That requires an engineering design. Yes. Okay. Questions, anyone else? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, that'll move forward to the next regular meeting. We'll move on to number 16, resolution of the County of the City of Moberly approving a sidewalk repair services agreement.
So in our downtown, we're making several improvements down there. We have a number of locations where staff has tried to do grinding on those in the past, and it's not a very clean or efficient way of trying to fix those trip hazards. And so this company that we met with had walked the downtown, looked at, they found 103 locations, I believe, identified as there would be potential trip hazards, and so they're proposing doing that. I think the original estimate they had was $12,800, so they just came back today and said they made an error, and so they reduced that down to $12,100. I think some change is the price. Yeah, so yeah, they've got that price down from what that was, still in the $12,000 range, but that's as cheap as we've seen it for that kind of service. That's just a little over $100 per location repair. I mean, that'll be a nice, smooth saw cut versus the grinding that you'd see from us.
All right, questions, anyone? Anyone opposed to moving that forward? All right, that'll move on to the next regular council meeting. We'll move to the last item. Discussion regarding mid-am semi-truck stacking in the right way.
You should have a diagram of your packet. It doesn't come up there. However, this is proposed for on the industrial drive. I guess I just let Rich talk.
All right, sir, tell us who you are. I don't hear anything.
It's been giving us a lot of feedback.
Needs to be engineered.
Rich Knable, representing Mid-Am Building Supply.
All right.
We're needing to get trucks off the street faster, and this will allow more to be unloaded more at one time. So, and changing that entryway to present time just one at a time, this will allow at least to get 4 in and out a lot faster. Get some of that congestion off the street.
So it's an issue of getting the ingress and egress, not so much
Yeah.
having things out on the street.
Right.
Okay.
And I know as mentioned, we'll be responsible for maintaining that and getting with the city engineer to make sure it's attached correctly to your specs to the street.
All right. Thank you. Questions, anyone? Not many questions tonight. Sorry.
All right.
Anyone opposed to moving that forward? That'll move forward. Thank you, sir. Okay. Is there anything else to come in front of council for the work session?
I have one quick thing.
Mr. Kaiser.
Tom, I've had to answer Tim's future question of how many. About 4 people have stopped by asking me about the corner of Rollins and Morley with the construction going on. Do we have an ETA on the lighting for that intersection? Because it is dark at night.
Yeah, I don't have one. That's the ODOT project, and so the S&A is doing the work for them. And I could check on that, try to get an answer for you. But
Yes, please do. Because the only thing that's lighting that up right now is the big LCD sign from the insurance company, and it's been a nuisance for a while.
I can see if you can turn that up a little brighter.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it.
Anyone else? I just have one thing. I've gotten several calls about a 4-wheeler sitting across the city sidewalk at the corner of Kirby and Fisk Street. And so who should that person call? Which department? Who's responsible? It's been there for 2 months, probably, right across the sidewalk.
It's kind of up for
Blocking
debate,
the
but
sidewalk.
I've had staff stop by and talk to them and ask them to move it. But as far as ticketing or them or something, I mean, I'd let Randall answer that question.
Well, I'm just interested in getting it moved off the
Well,
sidewalk.
we
I don't
try.
really
I mean,
care
talk to my code officer.
Well, we had a email discussion today between myself and Tom and Chief Link. I think the ordinance that applies to that situation actually says that a summons could be issued by either the police department or code enforcement. So my position on that is that the circuit court doesn't allow code enforcement officers to submit summonses. They only take them from police officers. So I'm just being frank with you all. My take was that I think it's easiest handled if police would want to submit a summons, because if code enforcement does it, they create a probable cause statement. They give that to me. I file an information with the court. The court then issues the summons. So process-wise, it just seems much easier to go through the police department. But I know the chief has his own concerns about that and would let him address his concerns. That was my take on it.
Anything else, Mr. Crane?
I would send it to the police department. They can handle it.
All right. Anybody else to address council for the work session? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.